Hi, welcome back. During this lesson, we will learn some basic modeling with Blender in case you don't have modeling capabilities with other software and you therefore cannot import already existing models. This lesson will be a little bit longer compared to the others, but I don't think those of you who have modeling abilities are compelled to follow it. So you can skip this one and go directly to the next lesson. But if you really have zero modeling abilities and you can only produce, let's say, 2D images, then you can follow this very simple half an hour course to learn how to make your immersive VR picture. Our modeling task is very simple. We will basically create a table with a simple surface on which we will put a large map. And over this map, there will be some flying pins to mark some positions in the map. With this short tutorial, even if you have no modeling abilities, you will be able to create some interesting content for your presentation. When you open Blender, you will see an infinite grid with an origin, a cube, a camera, and a point light source. Before to start, I prepared three pictures. The first one is simply a map, which is made with a screenshot. The second is the shape of a pin, and the third is the silhouette in black of the same pin on a white canvas. You can obviously choose your favorite city for the map and your favorite shape for the pin, but you have then to create the black silhouette. For now, you can select the cube and cancel it by pressing delete, because now we don't need it. You can pan, rotate, and zoom with your mouse. If you have difficulty, you have a gizmo on the top right corner of the viewport. On the top left corner, click on Add, Mesh, Plane. Select the newly made surface. On the right side of the screen, you will see an orange square. Click on it and you will open the menu to modify the geometrical characteristic of the surface. You can increase the scale X and scale Y properties to have a larger surface, which will be our future floor of the experiment. In the same menu of the orange square, click on the bicolor ball to set the materials. Add a new material and rename it, for example, blue velvet. It will be the material of our floor. By clicking the monochrome field next to base color, you will be able to change the tonality and the hue of the color. You will notice that nothing will change in the viewport. You will notice that we are now in the Layout tab. If you will move to the Shading tab, you will notice that indeed the color of the floor has changed. The lower part of the Shading tab is occupied by a flow diagram, which is useful to change the property of the materials. But let's go back to the Layout tab. Let's add another surface by clicking again Add, Mesh, Plane on the top left corner. You can move the plane by clicking on the arrow gizmo on the left side of the viewport, or again use the orange square. This time, instead of changing the scale, let's change the location and let's put it at the height of 1 meter in the Z direction. This rectangle will be our map. To make it easier to visualize, let's tilt it a little bit and let's rotate it 20 degrees around the x-axis. Let's now select our camera. The camera is now located in the region where it was originally, but we want to have it at the origin and at the height of 1 meter 75 centimeter, which is more or less the height of the eyes of a person. Now we want to move the camera manually to position it in the right spot, really close to the map, but without touching the z-axis, because the z was 1.75 meters. We can see now that the camera is facing an odd angle. It's watching a little bit downward and a little bit left of the map. Let's orient it properly. It is important that every VR picture is taken completely horizontally. If the camera is facing downward or upward, the horizon line will not be straight in the VR. Let's now move again to the shading tab. Make sure that you select the new rectangle, go on the Material tab of the right menu and create again a new material. Now we can directly use the workflow diagram in the bottom to change the material properties. Select Add, select Texture, and then select Image Texture. Now click on the Browse icon and go to locate the file path where you left the image of the map. Connect the color jack with the base color jack and you will see that the image will be pasted on the surface. But unfortunately the proportions are not right. We should now make sure that the surface that hosts the map has the same proportion of the image of the map. Then go with the File Explorer to see the properties of the image. In my case, the dimension of the picture are 1481 pixels times 833. I go back to the orange square on the right menu and I type some dimensions that are proportional with the actual dimension of my image. Now finally the map looks as it should look. Let's move another time on the Layout tab. And let's add another surface as before, add Mesh Plane. In this case, we want again to give it the proportion of one of the picture, but this time we want to select the picture of the pin. So let's go to locate the folder of the path and see the property of the pin. We want again to give it proportions that are proportional to the actual dimension of the image, but this time we want a surface that is much smaller than the original map. It seems that when I move the new surface, part of the map are disappearing. Then I figure out that I'm not actually moving the surface of the pin, but I'm moving the floor. So I just undo the movement and I use the menu on the top right corner of the screen to select the newest surface. I don't want the pin to lie horizontally, but I want it to face the camera. And therefore, on the top left corner of the viewport, I go from the movement gizmo to the rotation gizmo, and I rotate the surface of the pin. Let's move back one more time to the Shading tab. And let's position the camera nicely spot on the new small surface that will host the pin. After selecting the surface of the pin, let's add a new material as usual. This time we should keep in mind that we don't only want the texture of the pin, but we also want the transparency texture. So let's click on Add, shader and add shader. With this shader, we can sum two different properties of the material, such as image texture and transparency texture. Let's now add an image texture and go as before to find the path, but this time let's use the path of the pin. You will see the pin pasted on the surface and the proportions are correct. But as you can see, the pin is not semi-transparent but is surrounded by a black solid color. So let's now start to add the transparency. We add another image texture. You will understand later how it works. This time we do not select the normal picture of the pin, but we select the black silhouette on white canvas. And then again we click on Add, then Shader, then Transparent BSDF. We connect the jack and then we add the jack of the transparent BSDF to the Add shader. At this point, we notice that the black border has disappeared and only the green part of the pin remains. For better result, in the Material tab on the menu on the right, select Settings and as a blend mode, select Alpha Blend. Use the slider in the orange rectangle menu to position the pin on top of the map. At this point, in the list on the top right corner of the screen, you can rename and copy the pin to create a second pin and position it with the same technique of before. So, thank you a lot for the effort and for the attention, and stay tuned for the next lesson. Bye bye.